So today we're doing something a little bit different. We're actually going to do a bit more of an education video, and we're actually going to talk about how important insider buying and selling is to you when you're investing into a stock. Now, my opinion on this has changed a little bit over the last 1 or 2 years, and it was brought up on the Discord last night, and I thought, you know what, it's probably worth a video on it, so hope you enjoy it. Let's get started. Now, just before I do get on today's video, I don't know if you saw it, but Watches of Switzerland, wow, what a day they have. The stock is down 36%. A very much talk about stock at the moment as if it's a bit of a buying opportunity. Let me know if you'd like to see a video, maybe tomorrow's video on Watches of Switzerland and what my thoughts are and if I could potentially buy it. Let me know in the comment section. But the reason why we are talking about insider buying and selling today all came because of the Discord last night. And we're on about JD Sports, and obviously JD Sports is a stock that I like. I own JD Sports, and there was actually some insider buying. The CEO, as you can see here, went on to buy some shares. They bought some 91,000 at £1.08. Now, we kind of got onto the topic of how significant is this, and I guess, you know, there's some points that I'm going to put in here. Obviously, the key roles that you want to see buying are more than likely the CFO and CEO, and as well as that, you know, the size of the purchase. You know, if you're relatively buying a small position compared to a bigger position, obviously you're probably more bullish on the bigger position buys or sells, and also the role. So I'm going to just sneak that in there. But the big thing that always I go back to when talking about insider buying and selling is this quote from Peter Lynch, which is, insiders might sell their shares for any number of reasons, but they buy them for only one reason. They think the price will rise. And for me, that quote, since I read it, which I think is in one of the books from Peter Lynch, has stuck with me of, if there's selling, don't worry about it. If there's buying, that's a very bullish sign. And that's kind of the quote that I've had in my head when I think about insider buying for many, many years. Insiders might sell because they are a recent IPO. They might potentially have some of their kids that are off to university. Maybe they want to go buy another house. Maybe they need some money for some reason. But realistically, you won't ever buy because you think the shares are going to go up. If you think the shares are not going to go up, you don't buy. And that's ultimately what Peter Lynch said. And that's the thought that I've always had with insider buying. And there's examples of that. You know, when we look at Money Supermarket, for example, Money Supermarket, you can see a form here that was actually posted on the 3rd of November 2022. You can see the CEO here bought some shares in Money Supermarket, bought at £1.76, bought 11,000 shares. And if you actually go back to the time of around about November 2022, you can see from that time frame, the stock has rallied up really nicely since that time frame. So that's a sign of, look, the CEO was bullish, they bought into it, and the stock has gone up. And there's quite a lot of stocks that you look, especially on the UK side of it. Do you remember that 2022 crash where a lot of stocks dip, especially that Liz Truss period time? There's a lot of UK stocks where insiders were buying heavy. Look at a lot of the house builders. There was a few insiders buying on the likes of Barrett Developments, for example. So that's a sign of, look, in 2022, a lot of CEOs and CFOs, when the shares are too low, and a lot of them bought, and obviously, you know, they've gone up since that time frame. Also, what has come to show me something is that it's not guaranteed. It's not guaranteed that just because the shares have gone down and then the insiders buying, it means it's a guaranteed for the shares to go up. I always thought it was more of a 90-100% chance that, oh, the buying this is really, really bullish. But realistically, after my experience that I've seen, I generally don't think that way that much now. If you look at S4 Capital, on the 10th of January 2022, Martin Sorrell bought some shares inside the company, and you can see here he paid £5.31, bought 10,000 worth of shares. And if we actually go from that date of January the 7th, you'll actually see here that the stock is around about down 92%. So that shows you that insiders is not always the key. I see this all the time even now. People will say, oh, why doesn't Martin Sorrell buy some more shares? And that's not an indication that it's a massive turnaround in the insiders buying. You've got an example here where the CEO bought on what was originally a small dip, and it went even into a bigger dip. Something like a PayPal, for example, on the 17th of February, Dan Schulman bought around about 2 million worth of shares. At the time, he was the outgoing CEO. And if you look at the price paid, you know, it was $76. Since that time frame on PayPal, you think, well, that's a bullish sign. And you can see from here, from that point of view, the stock even went down even more. It was down over 30%. It's down 18% now because it has had a bit of a rally recently, but shows you that it's not a complete indication that the shares are going to completely go up from here. So my thoughts on this on insider buying is that it's positive. It's good to see the insiders buying shares, but what is made out to be the game changer and why aren't insiders buying on the dip don't always equal to, oh, the insiders have bought on the dip, the stock's going to go up. As I showed you there, there's examples where it does go up and where stocks go down still with the insider buying. So from my point of view, when I go back to this sort of quote here, my thinking a few years ago is that it's really bullish if insiders are buying, and I used to take that quite serious. Nowadays, I look at insider buying, and if they're buying, yeah, that's nice, but it's not make or break on the investment, and I would not decide on buying a stock because of that reason. I would still be mainly focused on the valuation and the financials, but it would be nice to see some insider buying, but it's not a guaranteed that the shares are going to go up. The other way that a lot of people work is that, oh, insiders are selling, it's time to panic and sell the shares. Well, if I take you towards Meta has been one of the best performing stocks on the stock market, and especially in the S&P 500. In the last year, the stock is up 182%. But when you look at the insiders of Meta, have people been buying the shares since this time frame? Have people gone, oh yeah, obviously it's going to go up this much, I'm going to buy some shares? No, there's no insider buying. And in fact, when you look at Meta, look at the amount of sells that you have going on inside the business. And as well as that, when you look at the people that have been selling the shares, you got the likes of the CFO in here. You know, the guy that's in charge, or the girl, should I say, that's in charge of the financials here. And they're selling shares, and they're selling the shares at $306. And since that time frame, the stock has gone on to rally. So it shows you stocks can rally without insider buying. And in fact, there can sometimes be stocks that rally with insider selling going on. And insider selling isn't the end of all. And you look at Darktrace. I mean, Darktrace got slammed because the CEO went and sold some shares on the 29th of November. And I don't know if you remember, but the shorts were all over this going, oh, the CEO has just sold a chunk of shares. It's the end of this company here. The stock was downtrending massively from it. The shorts were jumping on it. And from the 29th of November, what did we see Darktrace do? Well, only 1 month, 2 months later, they come out with their trading update for the first half of financial year 2024. And they come out and say they are raising their revenue midpoint guidance, increasing their margin expansion, and bring out a fantastic report, and the stock rallies on this. So once again, you got the CEO kind of selling some shares here, and you have great financials, and the stock rallied on it. So sometimes people make it a big deal that they're selling, but it's not necessarily that case either. So ultimately, when I look at the situation, when you talk about insider buying, insider selling, I still come back to this quote here, and I agree that insiders are selling the shares for many reasons. We don't know what that reason is, and I personally am not really ever bothered when I see insiders selling shares, unless it's under some kind of suspicious circumstance potentially. Then I might get slightly worried, but that's a very rare case. But when it comes to the buying side of it, I do think buying is a bullish sign, but I think sometimes, and my opinion on this has changed in the last 1 or 2 years, where it seems to be that if shares are going down and insiders are buying, it's the ultimate fix. And also that, because a insider has bought the shares at the current share price, that potentially is 190% guaranteed that the shares are going to go on a rally from here. It's not always the case. So when I used to look at insider buying, it used to be quite significant to me. But realistically now, it doesn't really come in even in the top 5 things that I look at in a business, probably not even the top 10 things that I look in a business. Ultimately, the big thing that's going to dictate the share price is the financial performance and the revenue and profit growth. It doesn't matter on insider buying, insider selling, the big thing that will dictate a share price is financially performing. That's the main thing. And also, I just wanted to make this video saying that I think there's a big significance put on insider buying and selling nowadays, and I don't think it's quite that. I think it's definitely something to look at, and it's definitely nice to see insider buying, but ultimately I don't think it's as big as what people make out in the current climate anyway. And as you can see, there was some examples in today's video where it has worked out, it doesn't work out, and examples on that selling isn't always the end game, and stocks still can perform very well with insiders selling the shares anyway. So yeah, hope you enjoyed this little more education video today. Anyway, hope you enjoyed it, guys. See you in a bit.